Jesus teaches us the critical lesson needed to understand why nations can suddenly collapse and rise. Whether it was God's chosen people, Israel, or another empire, when people fail to acknowledge God and lapse into idolatry, putting themselves first, they set out on a road to collapse. It may take several generations, but it is inevitable. The fall can take a few decades or only a few years. But when God's time is ready, nothing can turn it back. That is also what the blind prophet Baba Vanga warned us about regarding the future of the world. In just a short time, humanity will witness the rise of these three nations, while simultaneously mourning the downfall of three giants that once dominated the world. The rise and fall of nations. Citing long-term predictions of China overtaking America in economic size and output by 2027 or 2040, many wonder, what if history is not cyclical and slow-moving but arrhythmic, at times almost stationary, but also capable of accelerating suddenly, like a sports car? What if collapse does not arrive over a number of centuries, but comes suddenly, like a thief in the night? A thief in the night? Let's see what 1 Thessalonians 5:1-3 states. But concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you. For you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night. For when they say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them, as labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. What the Bible says about the end-time events culminating in the day of the Lord applies to the sudden collapse of powerful nations and empires throughout history. Empires are large, complex systems that can be turned upside down in short order by the insertion of even one event that is more than the system can handle. Lack of confidence in a nation's future, even while it is strong, can be such an event. When other nations lose confidence in the sustainability of an economic model, events can be set in motion to quickly change the balance of power. Other, smaller, seemingly insignificant events can trigger a chain reaction leading to world upheaval. The assassination of Austrian Archduke Ferdinand in June 1914 was the fuse that lit the powder keg of World War I. No one saw it at the time, but events quickly got out of control and conflict started. We have the recent example of how the complex world economy went from boom to bust when a lot of Americans began defaulting on something called subprime loans. Because thousands of large financial institutions were set up to depend on the performance of those loans, they suddenly found themselves insolvent or quite near the brink. The reverberation brought down large Wall Street financial houses and had repercussions across Europe and Asia. The world financial system came near meltdown one week in September 2008. The global economy is still recovering. It is an object lesson in how quickly events, even small events, can happen and turn the world upside down. Empires behave like all complex adaptive systems. They function in apparent equilibrium for some unknowable period, and then, quite abruptly, they collapse. It is sudden. What some historians maybe miss in their studies is what can be called the missing dimension in world affairs. That missing dimension is the hand of God in the rise and fall of great nations and empires. The Bible is a chronicle of ancient nations that rose and fell according to His plan and purpose. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. All are mentioned in the narrative. All played key roles in working with the nation of Israel and the church founded by Jesus Christ. Even today, the lessons of empires embedded in the Bible apply as we watch the modern world move toward what Christ said would be the end of the age. The advantage for the one who knows God and listens to His word is not only that they have seen these prophecies fulfilled, but they see the why behind them. It is never merely physical, but always has a spiritual design. Further, it is always driven by the twin traits of God's astounding loving kindness, but also His faithful and accurate judgments. What is the point of these prophecies? They were warnings in each prophet's day to the nations and always a merciful call to repentance. God was giving each man and nation a chance to respond to their Creator. He pleads with them and calls them. But we also see the sovereignty of God. He rules over all, even though kings rant and rave. God's purposes will always be ultimately accomplished. What is fascinating about every prophecy in the Bible about lands and nations and individual people is that it was prophesied before it happened, and it all came true in human history. What God prophesied was accomplished in each generation with stunning accuracy, thus reminding us that we live before the God who sees. And this is how and what Baba Vanga predicts about 3 nations will rise and 3 others will fall. Please watch carefully, because this is what God wants us to know. Starting with the first nation is set in trouble. The United States. This is exactly what Vanga warned us about this country. Baba Vanga allegedly foresaw an economic crisis that would impact many parts of the world in 2025. She foresaw a financial collapse that would shake the global economy, leading to widespread poverty and turmoil. The crisis would not only affect banks and markets, but also devastate everyday life for people worldwide. According to some accounts, she predicted a financial collapse that would disrupt the global economy and plunge millions into poverty. This crisis is expected to manifest as hyperinflation in Latin American countries, particularly Argentina, and cause employment and stability issues in developed economies worldwide. Trump's legacy, should he become president, will be the cost of his long-held ambition to ramp up his trade wars against the world. President Donald Trump has started his second term in office with momentous plans to change U.S. trade policy to achieve various economic and non-trade-related aims. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order imposing new tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada, and China. Under the new U.S. order, import tariffs on Chinese goods will be set at 10%, while most goods from Canada and Mexico will face a 25% tariff. Trump's aggressive tariff policy is part of his long-term strategy to strengthen America's trade position on the global stage. However, this move could trigger a large-scale trade war with severe economic consequences. We are not sure, but in the scenario where Trump sits back on the throne, how will America's future be? It is a planned economic collapse. Whether it's just a spooky coincidence or a reflection of real-world fears, one thing is clear. Economic uncertainty is looming. While we can only hope the future doesn't play out like this Simpsons episode, it's definitely a good time to stay prepared and keep an eye on your finances. As inflation rates rise and the world drowns in debt, a huge economic meltdown in 2025 is no far-fetched scenario. As you can see now, all governments around the globe are struggling with huge debts and investments that have resulted in speculation all over the globe. This show is a testament to poor choices in financial activities that resonate even louder and clearer today than ever before. With Donald Trump once again at the center of political discourse and the global economy on edge, the prophetic tone of this particular episode strikes closer to home than ever before. The Simpsons may be known for its humor, but its uncanny ability to mirror the future leaves many wondering if this fictional collapse could soon become a real-world disaster. Before we delve deeper into this discussion, it's crucial to emphasize that our objective here is not to advocate for any specific viewpoint, but rather to explore the narratives and interpretations that people have been discussing around this topic. In the context of faith, particularly in Christianity, many believe that natural and man-made disasters serve as warnings, as consequences of the sinfulness of humanity. Only God knows what the future holds, and we must turn to Him for guidance in these times of uncertainty. The whole of America should pray together for peace in all states, for the sake of its citizens. The prophecy of Nostradamus could come true, and everybody should pay attention and be prepared for what is to come. Americans should unite together. What is happening in America right now is said to be fixed with what Vanga predicted before. She allegedly foresaw a major leadership crisis, financial instability, and civil unrest that could shake the nation to its core. Political polarization is at an all-time high, and economic challenges loom large on the horizon. Could 2025 be the year the U.S. faces its greatest test? Russia is the next nation called to face difficult challenges. Throughout history, Russia has been no stranger to political intrigue and economic turbulence. But if the predictions of Baba Vanga hold any weight, the nation could be on the brink of a major internal shift. She spoke of power struggles at the highest levels, potential betrayals, and economic instability that could send ripples across the globe. With ongoing geopolitical tensions, strict international sanctions, and mounting internal unrest, Russia stands at a crossroads. Some speculate that 2025 could usher in a leadership crisis, possibly even an internal coup, fundamentally reshaping the country's future. Economic pressures continue to mount, and if a financial collapse were to occur, just as Baba Vanga supposedly foresaw, it could trigger far-reaching consequences, both for Russia and the world economy. The question remains, is Russia heading toward a period of unprecedented upheaval? As the nation navigates these turbulent times, the world watches closely, wondering if we are witnessing a moment of profound historical change. The United Kingdom is the last nation mentioned on this list. Baba Vanga's prophecies also hinted at the decline of a former colonial power. Many believe this could apply to the United Kingdom, which has been on shaky ground since Brexit. By 2025, the UK could face unprecedented challenges. Baba Vanga also warned of financial distress hitting Western Europe. With the UK's economy already showing signs of strain, could 2025 mark the beginning of a new era of uncertainty for the nation? Wider, she gave another big prediction for the Europe. Baba Vanga supposedly predicted the outbreak of a conflict that would affect much of Europe. Her visions seem to point to a war that could escalate to involve global powers. It is said that she warned about the destruction of the world as we know it, a phrase some interpret as referring to a conflict that could shift the balance of power and cause great loss. According to this interpretation, the conflict could drastically reduce the population in Europe and create a worldwide humanitarian crisis. Current tensions in Europe and Asia have led many to view this prediction as a serious warning, though the true scope of her words remains a topic of debate. Her prophecy states, "When Syria falls, a great war between the West and the East will follow. In the spring, a conflict will ignite in the East, leading to a third world war, a war that will destroy the West." As events in Syria spiral, fears of this vision coming true are mounting. Recent developments in Aleppo, where insurgents have captured key installations, have drawn renewed attention to a dire prophecy made by Baba Vanga. Rebels from the Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group have declared the end of the era as they push deeper into Damascus, capturing Sednaya prison, a notorious symbol of Assad's regime. Aleppo has already fallen, and while the Syrian Defense Ministry denies claims of Hom's capture, the rebels' momentum remains unchecked. Key ally Hezbollah has withdrawn its forces, and thousands of Syrian soldiers have reportedly fled to Iraq. Panic grips Damascus, with residents scrambling for supplies and money, fearing what comes next. In a symbolic act, protesters in the city's suburbs have toppled statues of Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad. Before her death in 1996, Baba Vanga predicted that Syria's fall would act as a precursor to a global conflict. She warned, "As soon as Syria falls, expect a great war between the West and the East. In the spring, a war in the East will begin, and there will be a third world war, a war in the East that will destroy the West." This cryptic message has left many speculating about the future of the Middle East and the broader consequences for global stability. The rapid escalation in Syria is now seen as a potential trigger for the catastrophic conflict she foresaw. As Assad's regime collapses, Syria's unrest could spill over into neighboring regions, risking wider conflict. Baba Vanga's prophecy, once dismissed as folklore, feels alarmingly relevant as the global community braces for what might follow. The fall of Aleppo to insurgents has wider implications, not just for Syria, but also for global peace. With its international airport now under militant control, Syria's situation could potentially exacerbate tensions among major powers, particularly as Russian-made weapons feature prominently in the insurgents' cache. This development has drawn international scrutiny, with concerns that the conflict may escalate beyond the region. Adding weight to the prophecy, Baba Vanga ominously stated, "Syria will fall at the feet of the winner, but the winner will not be the one." This cryptic remark has left many wondering about the true implications of her foresight. As the situation in Syria unfolds, the eerie relevance of Baba Vanga's predictions serves as a reminder of the delicate state of international relations. While skeptics may dismiss her words as coincidence, the alignment of her prophecy with recent events underscores the uncertainty. That's why Baba Vanga also supposedly predicted the outbreak of a conflict that would affect much of Europe in 2025. Like Nostradamus, her visions seem to point to a war that could escalate to involve global powers. It is said that she warned about the destruction of the world as we know it, a phrase some interpret as referring to a conflict that could shift the balance of power and cause great loss. According to this interpretation, the conflict could drastically reduce the population in Europe and create a worldwide humanitarian crisis. Current tensions in Europe and Asia have led many to view this prediction as a serious warning, though the true scope of her words remains a topic of debate. Mention the fall, now we mention the rise. Starting with Brazil. Brazil, a land of breathtaking landscapes, abundant natural resources, and boundless potential. For decades, the country has grappled with economic turmoil, political instability, and environmental challenges. Yet, as we move closer to 2025, a remarkable transformation is unfolding. Could this be the very shift that aligns with Baba Vanga's vision of a nation rising to lead the world in sustainability? Once burdened by crises, Brazil is now turning its greatest challenges into strengths. With the Amazon rainforest, often called the lungs of the earth, and an extensive network of rivers, Brazil is uniquely positioned to revolutionize the global energy sector. Already a dominant force in hydroelectric power, the country is now making bold strides in solar and wind energy, setting new global standards in renewable technology. Its commitment to clean energy innovation is not just reshaping its own future, but also influencing worldwide efforts to combat climate change. But sustainability isn't just about energy. It's about economic resilience, environmental stewardship, and global leadership. Brazil is actively investing in eco-friendly infrastructure, pioneering green urban planning, and developing policies aimed at protecting its invaluable ecosystems. At the same time, its influence on global trade, agriculture, and technological advancements in sustainability is steadily growing. As Brazil embraces its role as a leader in renewable energy and ecological preservation, the world is taking notice. Could this be the dawn of a new era for Brazil? A nation that once faced countless hurdles is now emerging as a beacon of hope in the fight for a greener, more sustainable future. Is Brazil on track to fulfill this prophetic vision? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the world will be watching. The next nation mentioned in her words is a nation stands out due to its unique geographical position, none other than Turkey. Nestled at the confluence of Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, Turkey has long held a pivotal role in global geopolitics. Its unique location is more than just a point on the map. It's a gateway connecting civilizations, economies, and strategic alliances. At the heart of this positioning lies the Bosporus Strait, a vital maritime passage where nearly 10% of global trade flows, cementing Turkey's control over one of the world's most crucial trade routes. But Turkey's significance extends far beyond geography. Over the past decade, the nation has been making bold moves, reshaping its economy, expanding its influence, and emerging as a key player in global affairs. Its leadership has strategically invested in infrastructure, defense, and technology, aiming to position Turkey among the world's most self-reliant and powerful nations. Could this be the very transformation that aligns with an age-old prophecy of a nation rising to bridge continents and assert global dominance? In the realm of diplomacy, Turkey has carved out a role as a mediator in some of the world's most intense conflicts, particularly in the volatile Middle East and Eastern Europe. With a dynamic foreign policy, it has navigated complex relationships with world powers while strengthening ties with regional allies. At the same time, its defense industry is rapidly advancing, with indigenous military technologies, drone warfare capabilities, and arms exports positioning Turkey as a formidable force in modern warfare. On the economic front, Turkey has been diversifying its industries, bolstering tourism, and fostering innovation, all while managing the challenges of inflation and shifting global markets. Its growing influence in renewable energy and trade partnerships signals a nation determined to secure a sustainable and dominant future. With its unique blend of military strength, economic ambition, and diplomatic agility, Turkey is at a crossroads, one where it could either face turbulence or rise to unprecedented heights on the world stage. Is this the beginning of a new era for Turkey? Could the vision of a nation bridging continents be unfolding before our eyes? Baba Vanga foresaw a dramatic shift in global power dynamics. While she never explicitly named countries, her visions have been linked to current events, and many believe they point to the rise of three specific nations. And this, the rise of a great Eastern power. India. Legends tell of a mysterious prophecy, one that whispers of an Eastern nation rising to challenge the dominance of the West, not just in terms of wealth, but also in technological breakthroughs, cultural impact, and global leadership. Many believe this vision aligns with India, a country that is rapidly transforming itself into a powerhouse on the world stage. India's economic expansion is nothing short of remarkable. With a booming workforce, a thriving digital economy, and strategic global partnerships, experts suggest that by 2025, India could overtake Germany and Japan, securing its place as the world's third-largest economy. But growth isn't just about numbers. India is also positioning itself at the forefront of innovation, space exploration, and international diplomacy. In the age of artificial intelligence, Indian tech companies and startups are making waves, attracting major investments and driving the next wave of digital transformation. The country is also solidifying its role in renewable energy, developing cutting-edge solutions to combat climate change while reducing dependence on fossil fuels. Additionally, India's advancements in defense technology and space exploration, including its ambitious lunar and interplanetary missions, are placing it among the world's leading spacefaring nations. But beyond economics and technology, India's cultural influence is also growing. From Bollywood's global reach to the spread of yoga, cuisine, and philosophy, the nation is leaving its mark on every corner of the world. With all these factors combined, one can't help but wonder, is India truly stepping into the role foreseen in ancient predictions? Could we be witnessing the dawn of a new era where India emerges as a defining force in shaping the future? Could India be the Eastern superpower Baba Vanga foresaw? Time will tell. Why nations rise and fall. Jesus Christ said people would be going about a normal life and caught unaware of the momentous changes occurring. Luke 21:34-35 states, But take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and that day come on you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Once again, we see the warning that events can occur like a thief in the night. The systems nations build determine their fate. Inclusive systems, those that share power, uphold fairness, and create opportunities for all, give life to societies. Extractive systems concentrate power at the top, stripping resources and dignity from the many. These systems may appear strong, but their foundation is hollow. They collapse under the weight of their own greed. The Bible has been telling us this story for centuries. Nations rise and fall based on their relationship to the glory of God, His justice, mercy, and compassion. When these principles shape a society, it thrives. When they are rejected, society begins to unravel, and the vulnerable are left in ruins. The glory of God is not abstract. It is His weight pressing into the fabric of the world. When Moses asked to see God's glory, God responded with words that revealed His very essence through the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Yet He does not leave the guilty unpunished. God's glory is revealed in His justice, holding oppression and wrongdoing accountable. It shines through His mercy, offering forgiveness and restoration to the broken. And it moves through His compassion, refusing to ignore the suffering of the weak. These attributes are not just for individuals. They are the foundation of systems that reflect God's ways and allow life to flourish. Extractive systems concentrate power and wealth in the hands of the few, silencing dissent and exploiting the many. This isn't new. Pharaoh's Egypt was an extractive system. The Israelites were enslaved to build Egypt's wealth, and for a time, the empire appeared unshakable. But God heard the cries of the oppressed and acted. Pharaoh's Egypt collapsed because it rejected God's justice. Later, the prophets warned Israel's leaders that they were building the same kind of system. You trample on the poor. You deprive the poor of justice in the courts. These systems may appear to succeed for a time, but their strength is a lie. Revelation 18 gives us Babylon as the ultimate symbol of such systems, an empire grown rich through greed and exploitation, but destined for ruin. When Babylon falls, its merchants weep, not for people, but for lost profit. Babylon is a warning. Systems that reject justice, mercy, and compassion cannot endure. And yet, there is another way. Inclusive systems reflect God's glory by creating opportunities, restoring dignity, and prioritizing the care of the vulnerable. In Acts 2, the early church gives us a glimpse of what this looks like. They gave to anyone as he had need, and no one was in need. It wasn't forced. It was a natural response to being shaped by God's character. It was astounding to see how just the simple process of having clear boundaries, justice, and yet maintaining a commitment to relationship, mercy, and compassion would create a sense of community that changed lives. Justice, mercy, and compassion are not abstract. They are precisely what God's glory looks like as it comes into contact with broken systems and the hope that results. We see glimpses of this same hope whenever communities prioritize restoration over punishment and care over profit, when former prisoners are given dignity and a second chance instead of rejection. When churches act as safe havens for the vulnerable, these moments remind us that God's glory is not just something to admire, it is something to live. Let's talk about critical junctures, moments when nations decide whether to reform their systems or entrench their brokenness. The Bible speaks of these moments too. The Exodus was one such moment. Israel was freed, not just to escape oppression, but to become a new kind of community, a people shaped by justice, mercy, and compassion. Jesus' ministry was another critical moment. He proclaimed the kingdom of God, Where the last are first, the poor are lifted up, and the broken are restored. These were not just spiritual ideals, they were a call to reimagine systems that reflect God's ways. Today, we are at our own critical juncture. Will we continue to build systems that echo the spirit of Babylon, where power and greed dominate? Or will we choose justice, mercy, and compassion as the foundation for how we live, lead, and build together? The choice begins with us. It's easy to critique nations or systems, but God's invitation starts in the small, faithful acts of our own lives. Where do you see injustice in your world? Who in your community has been left behind? Where might mercy soften your heart and compassion move you to act? The prophets asked, "How are the widows, orphans, and strangers among you?" That question still stands today. Justice is not just for governments. It's for churches, families, workplaces, and neighborhoods. True justice isn't just about righting wrongs. It's about lifting people up and giving them the chance to live with dignity. The church is called to embody this justice, to be a community shaped by mercy and compassion. We are not spectators to broken systems. We are witnesses to God's glory, light breaking into darkness. Every time we act with fairness, offer forgiveness, or extend compassion, we push back against the spirit of Babylon and point to the unshakable kingdom of God. Nations rise and fall, but God's call remains in Amos 5:24. Let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. Systems built on greed will crumble, but those shaped by justice, mercy, and compassion will endure. This work begins with us. Every act of fairness, every step toward forgiveness, every moment of compassion reflects the weight of God's glory into a world desperate for hope. May we choose to carry that weight, one small act at a time. As we delve deeper into the profound spiritual world, we will uncover many mysteries that were predicted centuries ago. Despite being born in different eras, two of humanity's greatest prophets, Nostradamus and Baba Vanga, have left the world in awe with their bold predictions about the future of mankind. Their prophecies seem to be coming true, aligning perfectly with what Revelation has warned us about: the return of Christ. Could it be that Jesus is coming in glory to save humanity? Join us as we explore the prophecies left behind by Nostradamus and Vanga to find answers to this time of crisis, which is ultimately fulfilled in the Bible. The rise and the end of nations. The first prediction made by these two prophets is about the complete contrast in the fate of two nations known as the giants of the world. As if the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia wasn't enough to worry about, Baba Vanga predicts further trouble in mainland Europe. For 2025, Baba Vanga supposedly predicted the outbreak of a conflict that would affect much of Europe. Her visions seem to point to a war that could escalate to involve global powers. It is said that she warned about the destruction of the world as we know it, a phrase some interpret as referring to a conflict that could shift the balance of power and cause great loss. According to this interpretation, the conflict could drastically reduce the population in Europe and create a worldwide humanitarian crisis. Current tensions in Europe and Asia have led many to view this prediction as a serious warning, though the true scope of her words remains a topic of debate. Her prophecy states, "When Syria falls, a great war between the West and the East will follow. In the spring, a conflict will ignite in the East, leading to a third world war, a war that will destroy the West." As events in Syria spiral, fears of this vision coming true are mounting. Recent developments in Aleppo, where insurgents have captured key installations, have drawn renewed attention to a dire prophecy made by Baba Vanga. Rebels from the Islamist Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group have declared the end of the era as they push deeper into Damascus, capturing Sednaya prison, a notorious symbol of Assad's regime. Aleppo has already fallen, and while the Syrian Defense Ministry denies claims of Homs's capture, the rebels' momentum remains unchecked. Key ally Hezbollah has withdrawn its forces, and thousands of Syrian soldiers have reportedly fled to Iraq. Panic grips Damascus, with residents scrambling for supplies and money, fearing what comes next. In a symbolic act, protesters in the city's suburbs have toppled statues of Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad. Before her death in 1996, Baba Vanga predicted that Syria's fall would act as a precursor to a global conflict. She warned, as soon as Syria falls, expect a great war between the West and the East. In the spring, a war in the East will begin, and there will be a third world war. A war in the East that will destroy the West. This cryptic message has left many speculating about the future of the Middle East and the broader consequences for global stability. The rapid escalation in Syria is now seen as a potential trigger for the catastrophic conflict she foresaw. As Assad's regime collapses, Syria's unrest could spill over into neighboring regions, risking wider conflict. Baba Vanga's prophecy, once dismissed as folklore, feels alarmingly relevant as the global community braces for what might follow. The fall of Aleppo to insurgents has wider implications, not just for Syria, but also for global peace. With its international airport now under militant control, Syria's situation could potentially exacerbate tensions among major powers, particularly as Russian-made weapons feature prominently in the insurgents' cache. This development has drawn international scrutiny, with concerns that the conflict may escalate beyond the region. Adding weight to the prophecy, Baba Vanga ominously stated, "Syria will fall at the feet of the winner, but the winner will not be the one." This cryptic remark has left many wondering about the true implications of her foresight. As the situation in Syria unfolds, the eerie relevance of Baba Vanga's predictions serves as a reminder of the delicate state of international relations. While skeptics may dismiss her words as coincidence, the alignment of her prophecy with recent events underscores the uncertainty. That's why Baba Vanga also supposedly predicted the outbreak of a conflict that would affect much of Europe in 2025. Like Nostradamus, her visions seem to point to a war that could escalate to involve global powers. It is said that she warned about the destruction of the world as we know it, a phrase some interpret as referring to a conflict that could shift the balance of power and cause great loss. According to this interpretation, the conflict could drastically reduce the population in Europe and create a worldwide humanitarian crisis. Current tensions in Europe and Asia have led many to view this prediction as a serious warning, though the true scope of her words remains a topic of debate. A confrontation around China is something that many geopolitical experts and journalists have started to see in the changing dynamics and rise of China as a global power. In the past, China has showcased its brute force several times in regions around the South China Sea and Taiwan, most of them through its naval ships. Analysts believe this may allude to the escalating conflict in Asia, with China involving NATO countries, potentially leading to a violent military conflict or an all-out war. Nostradamus also predicted something similar to this centuries ago. In one of his quatrains, he wrote about combat and naval battle. He said that the red adversary will become pale with fear, putting the great ocean in dread. Some think that the red adversary could be referring to China. The current focal point of global concern is the rise of China as a dominant force. It's interesting to note that some of Nostradamus's prophecies may have referenced this emerging trend shortly. Nostradamus states in a verse that opens with a vision of battle and maritime warfare that the red adversary will become pale with fear, putting the great ocean in dread. Scholars are busy decoding whether red adversary refers to communist China and whether the remaining quatrain would suggest a naval conflict. Continuing with the rise and the fall, let's come to unveil another mystery about the fall and rise of leaders. Nostradamus foresaw significant political upheaval in 2025. One of his quatrains reads, "The lion weakened, the eagle crows, a serpent rises and power flows." According to his prophecy, the chosen one is entirely different from what people typically expect. We are referring to the successor of King Charles III. Naturally, Prince William is seen as the future king. But according to Nostradamus's prophecy, the chosen one is actually William's younger brother, Harry. Recent speculation has surfaced regarding predictions made by 16th century astrologer Nostradamus, suggesting a tumultuous future for Britain's King Charles after his cancer diagnosis, which was discovered when he was undergoing treatment for an enlarged prostate. Royal observers speculated that King Charles might step down, either voluntarily or due to pressure related to his health. The revelation of King Charles' cancer diagnosis has left many questions unanswered, with Buckingham Palace withholding details regarding the cancer type and stage. This lack of transparency has fueled both concern and speculation about the monarch's health and the potential implications for the British monarchy. In his renowned work, Les Prophecies, Nostradamus seemingly forecasted the monarch's downfall, including potential abdication or forced removal. Nostradamus predicted the potential abdication of a king and the rise of an unexpected successor, which now seems to echo the current situation involving King Charles and Prince Harry. The ancient prophet said the King of the Isles would be driven out by force and would be replaced by one who will have no mark of a king. Before that, he accurately predicted Queen Elizabeth II's passing at around the age of 96, a prophecy that aligned with Buckingham Palace's announcement of King Charles III's diagnosis following his mother's demise in 2022. However, the question of how Prince Harry, who has shown little interest in royal duties, would end up as king remains unanswered. The royal family has faced its fair share of scandals in recent years. However, the one that garnered the most headlines and caused papers and tabloids across the world to go nuts was Prince Harry's exit from the royal family and the fallout thereafter. Despite his decision to pull back from his familial duties, many wonder if Prince Harry could still rule as king. The coming of Christ. They also warned us and gave us the signs that the day had come. The apocalypse is anticipated to begin in 2025, despite the fact that humanity will not be completely eradicated until 5079, as stated in the timeline of her predictions. Besides, Baba Vanga went on to state that a conflict in Europe would devastate the continent's population by 2025. The prophecy is worrying the people, particularly in light of the ongoing conflicts and tensions in geopolitics. Following Vanga, this is the timeline to the end of humanity. In 2025, the inciting incident that kicks off the ultimate end of humanity will be an unspecified conflict in Europe, which will devastate the continent's population. Then, when we come to 2028, humanity needs more energy. To do this, they will manage to explore Venus to find new energy sources. This may be one of the most unbelievable parts of this timeline, since Venus is essentially an inhospitable hellscape with an atmosphere so acidic that nothing could survive, and no space probe has ever managed to survive more than a couple of hours. In 2033, climate change is very dangerous, and that shouldn't be understated. However, Baba Vanga supposedly predicted that at this point, the polar ice caps would melt and sea levels would rise drastically worldwide. Ever see the old episode of The Simpsons where Russia flips a switch and the Soviet Union suddenly out of nowhere reforms? The Berlin Wall shoots back up out of the ground, and a zombie Vladimir Lenin smashes out of his crypt, groaning about crushing capitalism? Well, it may not be like this exactly, but Baba Vanga's alleged prediction claims that at this point in 2076, communism will not just be back, but will take over the entire world. In 2130, skipping ahead to the next century, humanity will, at this point, supposedly make contact with aliens. What could go wrong? Climate change in 2170 is going to get worse, and at this point, A drought is supposedly going to spread across the world. In 3005, perhaps it's due to human colonization, or perhaps it's aliens. Regardless, at this point, there will supposedly already have been some kind of civilization on Mars, and they will fight a war with Earth. In 3797 at this point, due to any number of reasons, the Earth will supposedly no longer be able to support life. Humans will allegedly leave their homeworld at this point and move on to parts unknown. This is it. The end gonna happen in 5079, the grand finale. And of course, with as vague of a prediction as this is, if this was even a real prediction at all, we know nothing about it. All we know is that the world will end. Yes, the world will supposedly already be uninhabitable by this point. So what this refers to is honestly anyone's guess. Does it go out with a bang or with a whimper? Is there a great epic battle or a rather anticlimactic incident? Keep in mind that this is all patently ridiculous. Yes, Baba Vanga was a real person, and yes, she has amassed quite a following and legend around her. However, since no one wrote down her predictions, no one knows if any prediction attributed to her these days is genuine. And even if it was, no one knows if the prediction would be true. Anyway, one of the certain signs to pretty sure that God is coming is the appearance of Antichrist. The third Antichrist is here, just as Nostradamus predicted. 5 centuries ago, Nostradamus wrote of 3 Antichrists. 2, Napoleon and Hitler, have already bathed the world in blood, but it is the third who will bring the apocalypse. And his time has come. There are many names mentioned in connection with the Antichrist. People have made a lot of speculations about the identity of this person. It could be a famous person, rich, eloquent, and able to convince people easily. He is suspected of being Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or even King Charles. But we also have no certainty about this person's identity. We only know that that evil person has most likely appeared and is showing off his power. We are living in a time when the battle between the kingdom of God and the kingdom of Satan is heating up as never before. I believe this is because we are nearing the return of Christ and the ultimate destruction of Satan's kingdom. Little children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come, by which we know that it is the last hour. They went out from us, but they were not of us. For if they had been of us, they would have continued with us. But they went out that they might be made manifest, that none of them were of us. But you have an anointing from the Holy One, and you know all things. I have not written to you because you do not know the truth, but because you know it, and that no lie is of the truth. Who is a liar, but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? He is an Antichrist who denies the Father and the Son. Whoever denies the Son does not have the Father either. He who acknowledges the Son has the Father also. Please note that there is not one, but many Antichrists. In the course of human history, many Antichrists have appeared and been manifested. Secondly, there is the Antichrist, one specific person. That is the final manifestation, the final product of the spirit of Antichrist, which has not yet been revealed in human history. I believe his shadow has already fallen across the stage, but we have not seen the actual person. But at the end of this age, Scripture makes it clear, there will be one final, supremely evil, supremely powerful ruler who will dominate the human race for a brief period, who will be the Antichrist. The third form is the spirit of the Antichrist. The spirit of the Antichrist is the spirit that operates through every Antichrist. So Antichrist always begins in some way in association with the people of God. But it does not really belong there, and in due course, that will be made manifest. That is one mark of the spirit of the Antichrist. But we need to take note of this. Although there are many prophets who make predictions about the end of the world, in reality, God has said that no one knows the day or hour of his coming, but God. Technological progress. Nostradamus and Vanga together gave the same prediction for technological progress in 2025. with advances that could improve life for many people. These breakthroughs might come in the fields of medicine, transportation, or communication, offering hope for a brighter future. It may also pertain to the significant growth of artificial intelligence, AI, which is already dominating various aspects of life. Nostradamus predicted the rise of a power that no one could have anticipated. One of Nostradamus's most unsettling predictions for 2025 is the revolt of artificial intelligence against its human creators. In one of his quatrains, he wrote, "Combats, naval battles, bombings, and a global uprising of superior intelligence created by man." Although it is unclear exactly which year Nostradamus referred to, he suggests that the rapid advancement of AI technology could lead to a scenario where machines, robots, and algorithms develop self-awareness and decide to rebel against their human masters. The consequences of such an event could be catastrophic, disrupting industries, economies, governments, and everyday life globally. Some analysts believe the combat and naval battles mentioned in the prophecy could refer to growing tensions and conflicts between major world powers like the United States, China, Russia, and India as they compete for control and influence over global resources, markets, and technologies, especially AI technology. We are all quite familiar with ChatGPT, but recently, a silent giant named DeepSeek has made a powerful entrance into the tech race. Despite being built at a low cost, it possesses advanced AI capabilities that have caused concern in Silicon Valley. The latest developments surrounding DeepSeek have raised alarms about whether the US's global leadership in AI is being challenged. In Baba Vanga's predictions, thanks to advances in organ transplant technology, humans will live to be more than 100 years old. She also anticipated that the darkness would be gone and another region of Earth would be illuminated by artificial sunlight. She foresees a major breakthrough in the realm of quantum computing, bringing an unprecedented technological revolution. This advancement is set to shake up various sectors, from finance and healthcare to cybersecurity, all thanks to the mind-blowing capabilities of quantum computers. The rapid advance of technology is transforming civilization in ways no one expected, in ways that are exciting and scary, ways we are only beginning to understand. Tech seems on the verge of recreating human beings into something new, something altered, bionic, computerized, robotic, superhuman. The internet's spider web has descended and covered nearly all elements of civilization. The smartphone, smartwatch, and smart home are growing into the smart world. It is evident that the AI technology race is becoming more intense than ever, and these advancements are rapidly evolving beyond what we once imagined. Global natural disasters. Although Baba Vanga left no formal writings, her words have been passed down orally, and she is now credited with several predictions for 2025 that point to profound global changes. Baba Vanga is also known for her visions of natural disasters that would affect the planet's climate and living conditions. She reportedly predicted that extreme weather events, including intense heat waves in Europe and desertification in parts of South America and Asia, would mark 2025. These interpretations align with modern concerns about climate change, which forecasts drought conditions and extreme heat in certain regions. Baba Vanga is also said to have predicted a wave of water that would cover vast areas in Asia, possibly referring to a tsunami or major flood. The possibility of such an event occurring in places like Bangladesh or Southeast Asia remains a critical concern today due to the risk of flooding in vulnerable areas. She also warned us that the Earth will still have to deal with issues like melting ice caps, increasing sea levels, and depleting resources. Regarding the prediction that a nuclear disaster will soon occur, she said that its consequences are extremely far-reaching, affecting global politics, the environment, and all humanity. This event has the potential to destabilize international relations, spark conflict, and lead to changes in the global balance of power. The severity of this prediction has sparked countless speculations. However, critics argue that oracles can still be influenced by social and cultural contexts, and interpretations of prophecies can vary widely. One aspect that needs to be considered is the possibility that Baba Vanga's prediction has a symbolic or metaphorical meaning. Prophecies are often based on symbolism, and interpreting them literally can lead to misunderstandings. What is needed is to interpret the predictions with an open mind, as well as consider alternative interpretations to fully grasp their message. In Nostradamus's vast collection of prophecies, one of the most feared is the one predicting a series of natural disasters that will shake the world in 2025. According to his writings, these catastrophic events will have a devastating impact on multiple regions, affecting both powerful nations and small communities. Nostradamus describes earthquakes, floods, and storms that will surpass anything humanity has ever experienced before, suggesting that the world is on the brink of an unprecedented environmental crisis. Scholars of Nostradamus have pointed out that his predictions of natural disasters often align with current weather patterns, making this prophecy even more unsettling in a world where climate change is already wreaking havoc. The idea that even more severe natural disasters are looming no longer seems far-fetched. Scientists have repeatedly warned that events like global warming, deforestation, and pollution are exacerbating the frequency and intensity of natural disasters, and Nostradamus's prophecy seems to reflect these contemporary concerns. One of the most common interpretations of this prophecy is that Nostradamus was warning about the cumulative effects of climate change. References to fire in the sky and overflowing rivers could be interpreted as allusions to wildfires and extreme storms, both phenomena that are already occurring more frequently due to climate change. Additionally, the mention of the earth shaking may refer to an increase in seismic activity, something that some experts believe could be related to the extraction of natural resources and other human activities that affect soil stability. It is important to note that while Nostradamus's prophecies are often interpreted symbolically, the connection between his visions and current natural disasters has led to renewed interest in his writings. Some believe that the natural disasters predicted for 2025 will serve as a wake-up call for humanity, a warning that we must change our behavior before it is too late. On the other hand, skeptics argue that Nostradamus's predictions are too vague and can be interpreted in many different ways. New cure for Alzheimer's and cancer. The mystic predicted that new cures for diseases like Alzheimer's and cancer will be invented in 2025. This cure, she suggested, wouldn't come from traditional science alone, but from a combination of technology and natural remedies. For humanity, the implications are enormous. It sounds unbelievable, but, nothing is impossible with the rapid development of world medicine. It sounds unbelievable, but nothing is impossible with the rapid development of world medicine. President Vladimir Putin recently said that Russian scientists are close to creating a vaccine for cancer that could soon be available to patients. He said, "We have reached a significant milestone in the development of cancer vaccines and next-generation immunomodulatory drugs. I hope that soon they will be effectively used as methods of individual therapy," he added, speaking at a Moscow forum on future technologies. However, he did not specify the types of cancer the proposed vaccines would target. Furthermore, recent developments have confirmed progress in the development of a lung cancer vaccine. The United Kingdom has allocated funding for 2 years of laboratory research and initial manufacturing of 3,000 doses for a DNA-based lung cancer vaccine, as stated in a press release from the University of Oxford, located in Oxford, England. But it cannot be denied that the world will have a positive outlook for cancer patients, and we can fully expect that a miracle will happen in 2025. Social instability. Nostradamus, in his writings, predicted a series of social revolutions that will shake the world in the year 2025. According to his prophecies, these revolts will be the result of growing inequality and a population increasingly dissatisfied with social and political conditions. Nostradamus describes a fire that will burn in the heart of cities, which many have interpreted as a premonition of social unrest and revolutionary changes that could redefine the structure of modern societies. Nostradamus's predictions about social revolutions have been the subject of numerous interpretations over the years. However, in the current context, where social and economic inequality continues to grow, these prophecies have taken on new significance. The gap between rich and poor has widened, and racial, gender, and class tensions are reaching boiling points in many parts of the world. This environment is ripe for the type of social revolution that Nostradamus seems to have predicted. A common interpretation of this prophecy is that Nostradamus was anticipating a massive uprising of the population against the ruling elites. References to fire in the heart of cities could be interpreted as riots and protests in large urban areas where inequality is most evident. In recent years, we have seen massive protests erupt in cities worldwide, from Hong Kong to Paris, in response to corruption, oppression, and lack of opportunities. Nostradamus's prophecy could be suggesting that these disturbances will intensify in 2025, leading to significant changes in the social order. Another interpretation suggests that these social revolutions could be driven by technology. Nostradamus mentions a new power that will arise and challenge existing structures, which some interpret as a reference to social media and digital technology. Today, online platforms have proven to be powerful tools for organizing and mobilizing social movements. From the Arab Spring to the Black Lives Matter movement, technology has played a crucial role in amplifying the voices of the oppressed and organizing large-scale protests. This prophecy could be warning of a digital revolution that will change the dynamics of power in the world. However, not everyone is convinced that this prophecy will come true. Skeptics argue that Nostradamus's predictions are too vague and can be applied to almost any situation of social conflict. Human birth at laboratories. Baba Vanga is believed to have predicted that for 2025, human babies will be born in laboratories, where the color of their skin to their character can be decided. This means that the entire process of birth will be controlled. The rise of technology, according to Vanga, advancements in reproductive technology, have already made it possible for some couples to conceive through in vitro fertilization, IVF, and other assisted reproductive technologies. However, the idea of human reproduction becoming entirely artificial raises a number of ethical questions, such as whether it is right to create human life in a laboratory setting. Additionally, it is unclear what impact this could have on the population as a whole, and what unintended consequences could arise from such technology. Human reproduction becoming entirely artificial could have significant consequences for our population and society. It could potentially lead to a decrease in genetic diversity and a greater reliance on technology to create new life. It could also raise significant ethical questions about the creation and ownership of life, as well as the role of government and society in regulating and controlling such technology. The development of artificial reproductive technologies is an active area of research, and significant advancements have already been made in this field. For example, scientists have successfully grown mouse embryos in an artificial womb, and human embryos have been successfully grown in vitro. While there are still many technical and ethical challenges to be addressed, these advancements suggest that the development of entirely artificial human reproduction is not outside the realm of possibility. The development of artificial body parts and prosthetics is an active area of research, and significant advancements have already been made in this field. For example, scientists have developed brain-controlled prosthetic arms, and some artificial organs, such as hearts, are already in use. While the development of entirely artificial bodies and organs is still a long way off, These advancements suggest that the potential for such technology is not out of the question.